Good morning, students. Welcome to the next lecture on ledger. In the previous class, you all learned how to prepare journal and journal entries. Now, based on these journal entries, the next book we are going to prepare is ledger. Now, ledger is a book of chief book or a principal book, because whatever we record in journal, all these transactions are next recorded in this particular book called ledger, and in respective book, now we all know we are having different assets, liabilities, expenses, incomes. So now if I have to get information relating to a particular item, for example, if I take cash, all these items, how much cash is spent, how much cash is received during a particular day, it will be very difficult in journal, because I have to first analyze how much cash is debited and what cash is credited. So to overcome that difficulty, we will prepare the next book called as ledger, and that's why it is called as principal book, because all the transaction relating to a particular account or an asset is recorded in the same book on the debit side or credit side. So it is treated as principal or chief book. Now this book has different accounts. Different accounts means, if I take assets, there is a separate book which is maintained for all the assets separately. If I take the liabilities, all liabilities like creditors, bills payable, overdraft, bank overdraft, loan, separate books or accounts are maintained. In assets, cash, bank, debtors, then bills receivable, stock, furniture, machinery. For each and every asset, a separate book is being maintained. That's why it is called as principal or chief book. Now we will see the features. Now the first feature, it is a final entry. Now why it is final entry? Because when I get the whole information at a particular place, I will only see what is the balance. So based on these ledgers only, I will be able to prepare my financial statement with the help of trial balance. So after trial balance and financial statements, again we start with journal. That's why we are having it as a book of final entry. Next, it is a principal book of account. Now when I say principal book of account, all my transactions are recorded at the same place. I need not go through the journal every now and then to get the information of a particular liability or an asset. Therefore, it is treated as a book of principal, because all the prime entries or all entries are recorded at a particular spot. Next, transactions are recorded in classified forms. Classified forms means this ledger we will be having two parts. It is divided in two parts. One is debit side and the credit side. So all my debit transactions are recorded on debit side. All the credit transactions are recorded on the credit side. So basically this ledger has two parts. One side is treated as debit side, other part is treated as credit side. So I get a detailed information saying why the account is credited to which account and to which account it is debited, or which account it is being debited. So it is in classified form. Now we'll see what is the difference between ledger and journal. Now we have the point of difference. In entries, if I take the base of this, journal is always treated as a book of original entry, because every transaction first is recorded in journal. Unless journal is done, the ledger posting is not possible. That's why we are having ledger treated as secondary entry. After journal only ledger can be prepared. So it is secondary entry. Now in journal, all the transactions are recorded in chronological order, that is according to the date and occurrence during that particular day. Whereas in ledger, I record it in analytical form. So basically when I record my ledger in classified form, I will analyze why the account is debited, why it is credited. That's why it is in analytical form. Next one, you are having processing. Now when I am having a given transaction, classifying the accounts, then applying the rules and recording, that whole process is called as journalizing. Whereas the process finding out already which account is debited and why it is debited, that account I will be recording on the debit side or on the credit side of my ledger. That's why you are having the process of transferring the journal entry into ledger is treated as posting. So meaning of posting, the process of transferring the journal entries from the book of original or from the journal, it is treated as ledger. So whatever entries are in the journal have to be later on transferred to ledger, respective ledgers I can take. So that process is called as posting. Now coming to balancing of accounts. Now balancing of ledger accounts. Now at the end of the period or a day, I should see the difference of the debit side and credit side. For that purpose, I should first total the debit side and credit side. So whichever total is more has to be taken into account and the lower total has to be deducted from this higher total. That difference, finding the difference between my credit side and debit side is called as balancing of ledger accounts. Now if my debit side total is more, for example if my debit side total is 1000 and credit side total is 800, there is a difference of 200. That shows 200 is short on the credit side. So I have to write the difference on the credit side showing this amount is short and the total of debit and credit should be equal to 1000. So if my debit side is more, credit side is less, I treat it as debit balance. And similarly, if my credit side is more and debit side is less, I treat it as credit balance. For example, debit side total is 1200, credit side total is 1500. The difference of 300 is treated as my credit balance. Now what are the steps involved in balancing? The first step is you have to total both the sides, that is debit side and credit side. Now after totaling, I should take the higher amount, which is the bigger amount has to be taken into consideration. The same bigger amount total has to be written on both the sides in parallel to each other or in the same line in the amount column. Next, I should see the difference by deducting the lower total from the higher total. So whatever difference is there, I should write that difference on that side which has lower total by prefixing the word to or by depending on which side it is there. If it is on the debit side, I write or prefix the word to balance carried down. And if it is on the credit side, I will write it as by balance carried down. So balance carried down is nothing. It is showing the shortage on which the lower total is existing. Now that after writing it in the respective ledger, that shortage becomes the opening balance for the next day or the next period. So it has to be transferred to the opposite side. If credit side you are writing by balance carried down, then for the next period you should take it on the debit side stating to balance brought down. This will be the opening balance for that particular period. Similarly, if my debit balance is less, credit is more, then I should write the shortage on the debit side saying to balance carried down and show it in the credit side of the next period showing the opening balance by balance brought down. Yes, now always when I am going to record transactions in ledger, first I should have journal. because it is having the debit and credit aspect. So it will be easy for me to post them in the ledger account, and moreover journal records on the basis of chronology. So it will be, when it is on the basis of chronologically recorded, in the same manner my ledger also will not have any mistakes. Chronologically the dates and the amount to be debited or credited is going to appear. Now we have the format of ledger. So the ledger is basically having 8 columns. So we are going to divide them in equal 2 parts. The first 4 columns will be recording only the debit amounts or the debits transaction, and the next 4 from 5 to 8 I will be recording only the credit transaction. On top here I will write the name, which account I am going to prepare, that name has to be written. So when the amount is debited I will write on this debit side. When this account is credited I will write on the credit side. So I will read, for example, if this is a cash account debit to so and so account. So the other account will come here. And similarly, if the amount is credited, cash account is credited by so and so account. So this is how we are going to write in ledger. So here we are having the details of what each and every column is going to record. First column records, this is the first column which is recorded why that particular account is debited, that is the account which is stated on top, why this account is debited, on which date it is debited, that date is going to be recorded. Then in the particulars column I will write to which account it is debited. Now for example, if I am having paid salary, here on top I will write salary account, salary debited to cash account because it is paid or it is increasing the expense. So salary debited to cash. And remember students, this salary is not going to appear anywhere in the particulars or anywhere in the account. It is only going to be on the top. So why this is debited? If this amount is debited, write it on the debit side. And if this amount or if this account is credited, write it on the credit side. Next, you are having the third column which records the journal folio. This is the page number of the journal. Now here the amount of debit has to be recorded in the amount column. Next, coming to the fifth column which records the date of the credit transaction. Now sixth column records why the particular account is credited, by which account this is credited. So which account which is stated on top, if it is credited, by which account it is credited, I should record here. Now seventh column also records the page number of journal, that is journal folio. Eighth column records the amount of credits. So the total given here gives me credit total and the total given here gives me debit total. So you are having the debit total and credit total. Now if this total is more and if this total is less, the difference has to be written in the credit side. And if my credit total is more, debit total is less, the difference has to be written on the debit side. Yes, now the steps involved. First I should record the transaction into journal. After recording, I should see the journal entry. From journal entry, I should find the account which is debited first. So that debit entry, first I should search which account is debited, and in this account I should enter it on the debit side, the name by which it is debited, that is the name which is appearing on the credit side of journal, that has to be written on the debit side, and I should prefix the word to it. Next, I should record the date and the amount of that respective transaction in the respective columns. Similarly, I should go to the credit account. the credit side to account which is there in journal, that to account has to be taken because it is credited. Then I should find that particular account and go to the credit side of that account and then write the name which is debited in journal. That debit account in journal will be appearing on the credit account or credit side of the account which you are transferring by adding the word prefix. Next, the record that particular journal date, that is the date, amount and journal folio in the respective column. After recording all the transactions in the respective ledgers, I should balance the ledger account to know the debit or credit transaction. Balance. So we are having example. First example says commenced business with cash rupees 20,000. Then second transaction says deposited cash into bank 5,000. So these two transactions will be now posted into ledger. How it works you all can just see with the help of this diagram. So the first table shows us the journal. So I am having the journal entry where I am having cash account is debited, commenced business with cash account is debited with 20,000 to capital account 20,000. So we are having commenced business with cash. So now this journal entry is posted in ledger. So we have to open two accounts. First is cash account, second one is capital account. So the cash account is debited, so I will write on top cash account, debit, credit and draw the format. Then I will take the cash account, because it is appearing on the debit side of journal, I will go to the debit side of cash account and write the name of capital account. I will write here to capital account. So cash account is debited to capital account. So how will I read it? Cash account debited to capital account 20,000. Now coming to the next one, I am having on the credit side capital. So this capital account I will prepare and then write why it is capital. Now if it is appearing on the credit side, I'll go to the credit side of capital account and I will show it on the credit side. Cash account is credited by capital. Cash account credited by cash account. It is read cash account, capital account credited by cash account 20,000. I hope it is clear. Yes, we'll see the second transaction. Now second transaction, deposited cash into bank. So journal entry is bank account debit to cash account. Narration being cash deposited into bank. Now this will be posted in my ledger account. So first account is debit, so I have prepared bank account. Now bank account is debited to cash account. So bank account is appearing on the debit side, so I go to the bank account. On the debit side of bank account I will write here to cash 5,000. Next I have the cash account. Now in cash account already I have on the debit side to capital. In the previous transaction 20,000 is appearing. Now because it is appearing on the credit side, I will go to the credit side of cash account and write by bank 5,000. Cash account credited by bank 5,000. It is read as cash account credited by bank 5,000. Next we are having the balancing. Now see, my debit total is more, credit total is only 5,000. So the difference of 15,000 is short. Your credit side is short by 15,000. So that 15,000 is to be written as by balance carried down, which is the difference amount. Now my debit total and credit total will be the same. This is called as balancing of figures. I hope you followed. For any difficulties you all can contact us. So thank you and be safe.